Hello guys again, here we are for tea time. This is part 2. Not the part 2 that you would be expecting. This is the part 2 that I sort of didn't want to do because my dad, shout out dad, love you dad, actually imparted in me to keep my work life and my personal life separate, but I feel like you guys deserve to know the story of me before the business. So this includes my daughter, relationship that I had with her father, and this also includes who I was beforehand. Just so you can understand where I am at now, and also it's coming firsthand from the person who experienced everything. So whatever lies or things that are trying to go around about me, I'm just going to try and put a stop to them here with this video. And without further ado, I'm going to pause this, have a billy, and yeah, we'll get to tea time with Rhilea part 2. Whew, all right. For purposes that I don't want anyone going after him or anything like that, because it's realistically, it has been 4 years now since all of that stuff has happened, and since that the person I was and the person he probably was has been put to rest. So for purposes, we'll start with, his name is going to be called Sam for this video. Sam was someone that I clicked with from the start. A little bit of backstory, he actually helped me in a situation where I got kidnapped by someone that I thought I trusted, who was a girl, by the way. I won't say her name, but I got kidnapped by a girl who I thought was someone that I trusted, and her person that she did it with was a 35-year-old man, and they actually force-fed me what's called ice is the street name, but it's called methamphetamine for other people who want to know the technical term. And I have had bad instances with that drug. A lot of people in my life have suffered from addiction with that and whatnot, so I didn't want to be one of those people that did. So when she did force feed me, it affected me in a way that brought on my anxiety. She did keep me there at that house for a week. I got into some medication and I figured out how to get onto the house owner's iPad, because I had no phone at the time. And I logged into my Facebook and I tried to contact people that I thought could get in contact with my family to try and help me. I couldn't call the police, or anything like that, because I've had bad instances with the police growing up and I've never really thought that they could help me. So I ended up doing a Facebook Live, and I took, I think it was 50 diazepam tablets that were either 5 milligrams or 50 milligrams each. And I took 6 Lyrica tablets that were 300 milligrams each. And I tried to, wait, that one, there we go. Anyway, so yeah, I tried to, do that to myself. And yeah, the video circled around enough for Sam, who I'd only met 4 weeks prior, to see, and he actually got in contact with the ambulance and somehow found my location from that video, because he's a really good technical hacker. He's got some good skills in there, I will say that. So yeah, that like trauma bonded us. I was in a coma for a few days, because when they did find me, I was pale and cold to the touch. So yeah, there's that story of what sort of bonded me and him together, and what also was a significant part in our meeting. And he actually came all the way up from hospital, from where he was in Rhilea, and came all the way up to the Lady Salento Hospital, and came and saw me and whatnot. That was sort of where our relationship started. It blossomed from there. Anywho, so a couple months go by. I'm getting back on my feet. I've lost all my friends. So at that time, I was also going to Keeper High, and then I ended up switching from Keeper High to going to Southport Flexible Learning Centre. And all my friends and all the people that knew me around, they bullied me, and they also were not my friend anymore too. So I lost a lot of people in that time, and I lost myself. So I was trying to find myself and who I was again. And I thought that was Sam. Now, Sam, he's got some dark things himself. He's got some rough spots, some patches that need to go through. I didn't see that at the time because I was so blinded by love. I was 15 and he was 19, and then he turned 20 and I turned 16, and by the time I was 2 months of being into 16, something that I never thought would have ever happened, I became pregnant. I remember doing the P6. Funny story with that. I had to steal them from Coles, and on our way back from Coles in Rhilea, there's a way that we walked that cut our time down from like a 40-minute walk to a 20-minute walk. So we used to go that way. And there was this massive hill. It was like this, right? It's freaking huge, bloody huge hill. And I was wearing these new trainers that my mum had got me, these new Asics. They were white as well. And I slipped on a rock at the top, and I fell all the way down. And I rolled my ankle. I had a golf ball size, a golf ball size bump on the top of my ankle for maybe about 3 weeks after that. And that night, with the pregnancy test that I had stolen from previously before rolling my ankle, I'd used all of them and found out that I was indeed with child, carrying a child. Saber, you had already been through a lot within the first couple of weeks of you arriving. Damn, girl. Oh, damn. But yeah, so we had a bit of a rocky relationship. He wanted to live his life and, be ready for a kid. He wasn't ready for a child. Sam was not, sorry. He going through what I had gone through, and this is a bit selfish, and I know this is selfish, I just wanted someone to love me for who I was and for what I would do for them, right? So I really wanted to have Saber. So that put a bit of a rift in us. And not only that, but his family didn't take a liking to me too much, and vice versa, my family didn't take a liking to him too much. But because, we wanted to still be together, it was pretty much just out of spite, I would have to say. So yeah, we kept going. 9 months on, came Saber, the most beautiful little girl in the world. Honestly, I got a photo of her right here, and I'm getting a bit teary-eyed thinking about it. But I remember the day she came. I remember the birth like no tomorrow. She was born at 4:20 in the afternoon on a Wednesday. She was meant to have she had two due dates. So she could have potentially been on the 6th of September, which was a week, 5 days before her father's birthday. After her father's birthday, or it could have been on the 13th, which was that Friday. Her birth lasted probably maybe about 11 or 12 hours. It was pretty quick. And I only came out with a tiny little tear, and I could not do any pain medication at all. The nurses even did up a morphine shot for me. I didn't want to have any epidural, heard so many bad things about them. They did up a morphine shot for me, and just before they were about to stab me with the injection, the doctors come walking and they're like, sorry, she's 9 centimeters dilated, she's got to start pushing now, she can't have that morphine shot. And I just dropped face. I've looked to my partner, to Sam, and I just was like, oh my god. He was made deaf for about 3 days after the birth. But after I had Sabre, after she come out, everything felt right. Everything felt worth it. All the turmoil that I went through pregnancy, a little bit of a dive into that. We were homeless for a minute. You know, we were living from place to place, and then we ended up finding our own house and, you know, getting really good and all that sort of stuff, right? So it was really situational, a lot of situations where housing and money and whatnot really took us into turmoil and really put a stress onto us, which I'm sure happens to many couples, right? Having her, it was beautiful, it was great. Everything was fine and dandy for a minute. And then we were living with my mum for a bit, and I was breastfeeding and also going into formula because I wasn't producing enough nutrition in my breast milk. I didn't have an issue producing breast milk, you know, I still do. I produce breast milk like no tomorrow, but it's the nutrition that was lacking then. My weight back then was like 42 kilos before I had her. And then after I had her, I lost all my pregnancy weight from her, and I went back down to a size 6. So, you know, that doesn't really happen to many people, and it doesn't happen overnight either. That happened to me overnight. The nurses made a comment to me the day after when I'd come in to change bottles, because I was trying to breastfeed, and I had a lot of excess from, you know, beforehand and whatnot. And what was beforehand was collagen, was the yellow stuff. It was, I can't remember what the real term is, but it was really good for the babies. So I was doing chop and changing from both of them. Anyway, one of the nurses commented saying that I had a flat stomach compared to what I walked with 12 hours beforehand. And I was like, what? No, really? I haven't even looked at myself yet. Hadn't even looked in the mirror yet. I just was so entangled with Sabre. So we were living with my mum, and my mum was sleeping upstairs in the house that we were living at. The house is now demolished, but we were living on Norman Street in Southport. And she was sleeping upstairs on the couch, and we were downstairs in the 2 rooms, like in the downstairs area. And I was changing Sabre, and I had caught Sam out on cheating, and I was calling him out on it, but I was like whisper calling him out on it, you know what I mean? Obviously I was angry and upset, but I knew that I was changing Sabre and she was asleep, and I knew that my mum was asleep upstairs. So I wanted to, you know, be at least a little bit respectful. But mind you, at the time we lived in a 100-year-old house, and you can't really be respectful in a 100-year-old house. It's just impossible with those walls, man. They're like thin as. So we are whisper arguing, and my mum comes to the stairs and starts saying, hey, like, don't call my daughter names, rah rah. And I was like, Mum, please do not get involved. Like, do not get involved. I don't want you involved. I love you as much as I would like this to stop and whatnot, and for him to see my side, I need him to see it from my point of view, from me, not from you. It's just going to anger him. Sure enough, it did. It angered Sam, but it also angered my mum quite a lot. I don't know, something goes over mums, and I definitely do know. Because Sabre has told me some things that have happened at school, and I'm like, damn, I'll come down there. But then I also got to remember that I'm a parent, and I can't do that sort of shit. You know what I mean? You gotta sort the shit out like an adult. So sit down and have chats instead of high school shit. You know what I mean? My mum got angry to the point where she actually spat on Sam, and this caused Sam to throw a punch. And mind you, I was changing Sabre at the time. I didn't know what to do, like how to handle it. So I just held Sabre to me close to my chest, right? And just told them to stop. They kept going, and then they sort of like made ways from each other, and my mum told him to leave, so he left. And just before he left, he told me to get all my stuff together and to get all of Sabre's stuff together and to get in the car with him. So I did just that. I was scared, right? I wasn't scared of him. I was scared of what would happen whether if I didn't go. You know what I mean? Because my life was all just him at this point. Got in the car, we left. We ended up staying at his sister's house. And then 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from my mum saying that child safety was just at her house and that they want to talk to me. And I was like, whoa, okay, this is scary. So we jumped in the car. We got there from Nerang to Southport within 5 minutes. I walked inside, and like Sabre's with me, obviously. I walked inside, and child safety are literally walking up the steps as I've walked inside. And they're telling me that they're giving me a 30-day order to take my daughter away from me and put her in a foster home. And I need to show them substantial evidence that I am a fit enough parent. Me and Sam. And I just broke. I broke. And why child safety was in our life was because my mum walked down to the police station and put a DVO on Sam, had my name and my daughter's name underneath hers to be as the aggrieved, right? And yeah, basically that was grounds enough for child safety, because my daughter was present at the fight, even though she didn't get hurt or was, entangled or anything like that. It was just the fact that we were in that house. So there was investigation that needed to be doing. I thought it was really weird that they gave me a 30-day order on that, because when I've had child safety come into my life previously when I was with my mum and my dad, because I didn't have the best life growing up, but they never took us away. They always did interventions, and my mum always got good. She always did good. You know what I mean? My mum was by means the best mum, but she was a great mum. You know what I mean? She did the best with what she had, and I love her for her. It's taken me a very long time to be able to realize that and say those words. And they used to be empty, but they're not now. You know what I mean? Because we realize with our own experiences and our own situations what they go through as a parent. And I too now know what my mum went through dealing with me growing up and with my brother, you know. So yeah, my parents, they weren't great, but they were the best that I had. And my dad, like, he's always been my best friend, you know what I mean? I love my dad. He's always been my best friend, you know. Even though we've had rocky relationships with our family, you've got to realize that you only get one family. So yeah, anyway, so I broke when the child safety officers told me that she was going into care. It took them about an hour and a half to 2 hours to take her away from me. I was no means by means ready, and she was 6 weeks old, you know. She was still breastfeeding, and like, even though she was on formula too, but I was still breastfeeding at the same time, because she still needed that stuff, you know. She still needed that connection with her mum, and I always wanted that connection with her. I've always wanted to be a nurturer. So yeah, 2 hours later, she was buckled up in the car, and I gave her my jumper, and I took the blanket that she had so I could still smell her. And yeah, that was it. That was the last time I got to spend nights with her. That was the last time I got to hold her without people watching me. That was the last time I got to see her smile, and it wasn't a thought in the back of my head knowing there was other people making her do that. Oh, this is why this was a hard video. So yeah, for about a week after she was put into care, I got to see her 3 times a week, and then COVID happened. And COVID, you know, we had all these regulations and things like that. I had to cover up my face with a mask, so she never really got to see this. She only got to see my eyes for a little bit. Yeah, COVID happened, and got to see her for a week, for 3 times a week, and then yeah, I only got to see her once a week for 2 hours. And then about 6 months after that, they told me that they were putting her into a 2-year order. I thought the order was meant to be only 30 days, you know, so there was already a loophole there, and they were trying to say that I was a very unfit parent. For the first 4 weeks that she had got taken, when she got taken from me, I was a wreck. I was a mess. It had affected me in ways that I didn't know could affect a person. at being so young. You got to remember, I was 16, and then when she got taken, I was 17. So, like, I was almost 17, and then, yeah, in her months, anyway. Anyway, so when in that time of me being 16 and 17, I didn't know what it was like to be a mum in the first place. I didn't even know what it was like to have a very good presenting mum at that time. So I was scared. And also hearing all the things that you hear about child safety and whatnot growing up, I was terrified, absolutely terrified, for her, for me, for her father, for my family, his family, just everyone, right? I was terrified because this doesn't just affect me. Oh, sorry, just hit you guys again. It doesn't just affect me, it affects this whole village, the whole village, right? Because it doesn't just take one person to raise a child, it takes a village. Anyway, so for those 4 weeks that she was meant to be in that 30-day order, I was doing MD almost every single day. I stopped breastfeeding at this time because, you can't really breastfeed when she's in foster care and you don't have immediate care of her. So I stopped breastfeeding, and me and her father, we bought a lot of MDMA, and I got addicted to it because it was at the time making me feel something that I couldn't feel anymore. Fuck, this is hard. It really changed me as a person, being addicted to MDMA, because even though it might not be the same drug that my mum was addicted to growing up, it wasn't, it still gives you that same feeling. It still makes you suffer. And I remember waking up one morning just after the 30-day thing had stopped, but she was still in care, and I had no one was telling me what was going on. My lawyer wasn't telling me what was going on. I didn't know that my lawyer was actually working for child safety at the time, because can't afford child safety. You can't afford lawyers growing up. Back then I didn't have a job. I just had Sabre, and I was still trying to find one. So it was very difficult for me to find a job in that time. I woke up one morning and I had an epiphany that I needed to stop doing all this MDMA, these drugs, and just go back to smoking weed again, which is one that I was legally allowed to smoke weed. Even back then, my psychiatrist growing up had allowed it because my mum didn't want me on Seroquel. Something I haven't spoken about in a very long time. Anyway, so I had an epiphany, and her father, Sam, he still wanted to do it, and I didn't want to, so he would still do it and I would not. And this is primarily where the domestic violence starts. Now, before this, I would say domestic violence did happen, because verbal abuse and mental abuse and financial abuse is still domestic violence, right? So that was all happening previously. But no one knew about it. I hid it from my family, from his family, from everyone. So yeah, no one knew about it, and this is when the physical abuse started. And, you know, it went from throwing things to picking me up and dropping me, and, you know, just bad things like that. And a few months went by of me copping all this physical abuse that something switched inside of me, made me think, why am I letting him do what people used to do to me growing up, getting bullied? I had so much thicker skin back then, so I started equipping myself with this thicker and thicker skin, more and more thicker, and I started biting back at him, at Sam. And I started calling him names. Ooh, squeeze me. I started calling him names. I started, you know, making him feel bad for the way that he was treating me. But the twist is that he used to twist it all back on me then. So it was a really big game of cat and mouse, in the sense of like who could damage each other the most, you know? And that went on for a very long time. And it got to the point where I actually started hitting him back. And I actually have a scar on my knee. I'm not sure if you guys can see it, but it's over here. I have a scar on my knee, and there's a bit of glass still stuck in it. From one time when I fought back at him. He was calling me names, and he actually said that I was a bad mum, and that I could never be a better mum than what my mum was towards me, and just all these bad things. And it really clicked something in my brain that day. I don't know what it was. But yeah, I hit him, and he grabbed me and flipped me over him because he was sitting playing his Xbox at the time, and my knee just went straight into this this black glass TV unit that we had, and it just shattered everywhere, and blood was squirting out of my knee, and you know, there was glass sticking out of my knee, and I like went to call the ambulance because I couldn't walk, you know, obviously my knee was fucked. And the ambulance took so long, took like 8 hours, that I ended up cancelling them after. They still hadn't rocked up to my house, and I walked down to the doctor's. I think it was like 4 days later, after I could like properly walk. And yeah, fucking the doctor was like, you should have seen me like that day. And I was like, well, here we are. So there was a lot of things that happened. There was also a lot of, you know, times where I hurt him. You know, I've, not to brag or anything like that, but I did, you know, knock his front tooth out at one point. I have, you know, probably broken a couple of ribs of his from the times that I've kicked him and whatnot. So yeah, there has been times where he has hurt and I have hurt from each other's actions. Child safety knew about the domestic violence that was happening because I would rock up to visit every single time. I tell you right now, it did not matter if I was sick, if I had a massive shiner on my face or something like that, as bad as that is, or like bruises, cuts, graces over my body, it didn't matter. I would still rock up to visit. Unless I was absolutely like really, really, really sick, like that time I got COVID, I would not go and see Sabre. Or there was also the time where she couldn't get to me. Like, that's the only time I would not see her, honestly. Got to the point where I was getting sick and tired of him not coming to visits, and they had asked me one day about what had happened, like to my face and all this sort of stuff, because I'd rocked up with some massive razors on my face and scabs. I've actually got a photo of me and Sabre together, of them, and of like they're on my face. You can see them plain as day. did not bother trying to cover them up. And they had asked me that day what had happened, and I just broke down and I told them everything, because it had been like 4 years at this point, and I was wrecked. I was working 3 jobs. I was doing all of the housework. I was doing everything, you know, trying to keep the relationship alive. I would go and get pot. Every time that we had no money from pot, I would either somehow get pot or somehow get money, like just that sort of shit, right? And there's actually a whole like other darker side to this part, but this video is not about that, you know what I mean? So yeah, there's a whole big dark side to this relationship that I probably won't talk about yet. Like, if you guys want to hear that, and you know, let me know down in the comments. I don't know if you want to hear more about my story and about what happened in that relationship and what really went on. You know, no filter, no sugarcoating. Yeah, let me know down below, and we'll organize a video on that. But yeah, this one's about Sabre and about her time in child safety. So yeah, pretty much I broke down and I told them about everything that had happened, and you know, they were like giving me all these like domestic violence things and whatnot, and they're like, you need to get out. So every time I would go and visit her after this instance, I would call up these places and I would try and organize a bed for me or something of the instance, but nothing worked. Nothing happened. You know, it didn't matter how many times police got called from neighbors that would come to our house and put DVOs, or well, it wasn't even that they put DVOs, it was like a good behavior bond or cool down periods or get him to leave or something like that. But it would always be he would come back, and at one point I actually had to leave the house. I wasn't violent or anything like that. It was just he had twisted somehow the story to the police that made them think that it was that it was his house and that he was on the lease and everything. And he actually did remove my name from the lease at one point. And yeah, so it's a whole big backstory that I could go into full detail like later down the line. So yeah, I would try and ring up these domestic violence places, these housing places and whatnot, and again, they would not, you know, accommodate for me. They're like, no, we can't have you here, or like, you know, blah blah blah, it's not active, or all this stuff, we don't have any beds, sorry, just, you know, every single time. And it got to the point where they were trying to call up to Sunshine Coast for me, and it just wasn't working. So I had to think on my toes here. Ooh, hit you guys again. I had to think on my toes, and thinking on my toes was, they had sat me down and told me that if I didn't get out in a certain period of time, like basically when this 2-year order had run up, I wouldn't be able to get Sabre back. So I was still trying to find a house. No places would, you know, say yes to me, because even though I was working 3 jobs, if I did move away, I would go back down to just working 1 job or being on Centrelink, and that's not enough for a real rental, you know. So I had to think of my toes quite quickly, and I was like, fuck, all right, what am I thinking of? Oh, Facebook Marketplace. Bang on, you know what I mean? So I jumped on Facebook Marketplace and I started applying for share houses, for just houses in general, little villas, little apartments, whatever. It didn't matter where I was going to go, I was just going to figure it out, right? Someone ended up messaging me back. Sorry guys, someone knocked on my door. Ooh. I've sort of forgotten where we were talking. Lol. That's right, getting out. So yeah, someone had messaged me and was like, yo, I'm happy to accommodate for you. I'm happy to, you know, get you to move in on this date, blah, blah, blah. And the way that I got it by my ex, now because of the domestic violence and how, like, he was watching my phone, he was watching everywhere that I went, like, he was, you know, very, very, like, controlling on what I did and who I would talk to and things like that. So I made it out and said to Sam that me and him were going to move to this new house. And I actually gave him the location of this place and showed him the place and everything like that, and put in the message that it was going to be me and him and all this sort of stuff. But then I secretly called the person I was moving in with, and I told him the full story, and he was like, yep, I've got you, we can do this. About 3 days prior to moving into the house together, we had a massive argument to the point where it made me go, no, I'm done. I can't wait any longer. So I called up my father, and I had organised him to get a trailer beforehand, and he was like, yep, I can bring the trailer over right now, because Sam had hit me in the face and left quite a shiner. It was the first sort of bruise that stayed for a while, and it was quite big. So my dad was like, yep, I'll be over there in a minute, and Sam left after the fight. So I collected some clothes, some valuables. I got the bed, because the bed was mine. I had it previously before that, so I took it, and he had the futon couch anyway that he could sleep on, so it didn't really bother me. He was sleeping on that prior anyway. I would sleep in the bed. So put everything into the trailer, and I got like my bathroom stuff and a couple of kitchen things, and that was it. That was me leaving my life. That was traumatic as fuck. And my dad drove me to the person's house, and I moved in, and there was that. When they had told me that I needed to do it in this time frame, I actually wasn't able to find a house in that time frame. And like, I was still in the process of trying to move, and there was so much other things that I could go into prior massive detail. That was just way too traumatic for me to think of both at the time. I was thinking of my safety at that time. And they had ordered another 2-year order on her, which doesn't normally happen. Now, usually when a child goes into child safety now, like in these years prior to after the, I think it's the Taylor case, she got found in Coomera, rest in peace. This is where they started to lock down and have everything sort of rah. And yeah, usually when a child goes in, they would go in and they would be in a 2-year order, and then they'd go in for 18 years for the rest of their life. However, that didn't happen with her, with Sabre, thank God. She just got put into another 2-year order. I still had time, because they knew that I was still struggling to find a place, so I still had time to get out of the situation that I was in. So got out, and I found a job working at a Thai place. I was living in Cleveland, in Redland Bay, and yeah, I was working from 1 o'clock in the afternoons till 9 o'clock at night, being a sous chef at the time. Just really loving it in the kitchen. I was doing Thai food. It was really great. And then I found another opening for being a baker, and at the time I was trying to make a lot of money and, you know, get by on my feet. So I wanted to take on another job, so I took on being a baker and doing a baker's apprenticeship for a little bit. But I ended up not liking that because I ended up having no sleep. I was starting from 1 o'clock in the morning to 9 a.m. in the morning. I would have maybe 4 hours to myself before I'd start work again at the Thai place. So even though they were right close to each other and my house was only a 2-minute walk from where they were, it didn't matter. It was more, I was drained. I was absolutely drained, man. Could not keep going on like that, especially for the little pay back then, because I was like only 19. I was only 19. So that's crazy. 19 going on to 20, and I remember spending my birthday by myself and spending Christmas by myself. That was hard because I couldn't go, you can't go and see Sabre over the holidays. They don't allow that to happen, which is quite sad. And that's also where some things happened in child safety. They failed her care and her safety. It actually happened over Christmas, and it was really weird because I had contact with them for very, very, very well. Like, I had worked up contact with them. Like, I was talking to the carers, and then suddenly the carers stopped talking to me. They stopped talking to my mum. They didn't want me or my mum picking up Sabre anymore. They wanted the person who would pick her up usually to do it. They also didn't want me doing unsupervised visits anymore. They wanted them to be supervised again and all this sort of shit, which was really, really, really weird considering we had just gone from like here to here in a matter of a couple of weeks of no contact from over those holidays. And then we still had no contact for about 3 months after that, going into 2023. And yeah, so we find out what's actually happened, and I won't say too much on what's actually happened. That's also for another time. But they failed her care and she got harmed, and that's automatic grounds for her to come back to primary carer. And at the time, I was still living in a share house, and I was also just getting into a new relationship with Ronan, my partner now, who is amazing. Absolutely love you, baby. And still trying to find myself and things like that. And I knew in my heart that I wasn't ready to have her right then. I'd only just separated from her father, from Sam, like 4 months prior to that, 5 months prior to that. So it was all still very new. And then, you know, going through the trial of the process with her, finding out what had happened to her and the harm and all that stuff really boiled my blood. Because it's something that happened to me when I was a kid, and I'm sure it's something that's happened to many young children who are now adults, who are teenagers, who are still young children to this day. And it's sick and it's horrible. It's just something that should never be done at all. So yeah. Anyway, my mum was the fittest person for her, and I saw that my mum was the fittest person for her because child safety made her. It's not even child safety that made her the fittest person, it's my daughter. My daughter made her realise, as sad as it is, that it's taken her 3 children, not me, not my little brother, but my own daughter, for her to realise where she was going wrong. But she was able to clean herself up, and I'm so proud of her for it. And it's something that I could never see my mum do, but she does it still to this day. And yeah, shout out mum, love you mum. So my mum was the fittest person for her. So she went up to Granny. She went and lived with Granny, and she still lives with Granny. So she's out of child safety. She's been out of child safety for almost 3 years now. So I've been together with my partner for 3 years, and she's been out of child safety for almost 3. It will be 3 years in June, the end of June. The day that I got this tattoo, this is a tattoo that I got for my daughter. It means a lot to me, to her, to everyone who sees it. It's her story on my arm. I named Saber after a anime in Fate Stay Night. Her father showed me this anime and liked this name a lot, but I also, gave part in this name. If I didn't like the name, she wouldn't have had this name, is the way that I see it. But anyway, so her name is Saber, and she means sword in French. And this character in this anime called Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works, she has blonde hair and blue eyes. And my daughter, she doesn't have blue eyes anymore, but she had blue eyes when she was first born for like the first 8 months of her life. She's got blonde hair, blue eyes, this white as blonde hair. Like the history, she's based off of the Sword and the Stone, which is the Prince Alexander, who pulls the sword. Well, sorry, not Alexander, Prince Arthur. He pulls the sword out of the stone, and he suddenly becomes king. King Arthur. Well, Princess Saber, Queen Saber. And she's literally the embodiment of Excalibur, and she wields Excalibur, which is this sword on my arm. And Saber is a sword, let me tell you. She is a firecracker. Absolute bundle of just energy. Just warm energy. Just ecstatic, warm energy. And I really wanted to have her on my body for the rest of my life. Now, my mum, she has a saying, I love you mum, but this saying I'm sort of weird of. But she has a saying that if you get your kids' names tattooed on you, it's like taboo, it's bad, it's a curse, you know what I mean? Like, it means you're gonna have a bad relationship with your kids or something like that. And I'm like, oh, just because you had a bad relationship with me doesn't mean you gotta say that. Like, damn mum. But she's actually got my name and my brother's name tattooed on her wrist, and my father has my name and my middle name on his arm, and same with my brother on his other arm. So I think that's pretty cool. But also, in saying that, like, I don't believe in that myth, you know? Have you ever heard the term of egregore? That's an egregore, in my opinion, you know? That, just like my religion is an egregore, just like Santa is an egregore, just like God and Satan is egregore, you know? It's really belief where you put it, in my opinion. So yeah, Saber, she was automatically taken out of care through the trial, because the judge literally was like, oh my god, why have you even taken her daughter from her in the first place? If you guys had have just put your foot down at the start instead of doing it almost 4 years on, like when it came to helping me out with finding a house and giving me time and all that sort of stuff, like, she would have been able to be with her mum beforehand. So to have a judge tell you that and give you a whole bunch of paperwork and basically explain how you got your rights back to have your daughter and that you're a mum again, it really, really breaks your heart, because it goes, well, fuck, why couldn't we have you at the start? Why did we get so many different judges and caseworkers that just had it out against me, you know, against her father, against my mum, against everyone, and against Sabre above all people, because she's the one who really got hurt and damaged in this, you know what I mean? Like, yes, I had her taken from me, but Sabre had her mum taken from her. That's the way that I look at it too. And no child should have to go through that. No parent should have to go through that. You know, I wouldn't wish this upon my worst enemy. And that's saying something. It doesn't matter what anyone could say about me. It doesn't matter what anyone could do. I'm not that type of person. And I never have been. The only reason why I've had to admit violence and toughness and independence and blood, sweat and tears and endurance is because I had to accommodate for the life that was given, for the life that I also made at the time. Now, it's more, I'm proud of my life. When I left, I didn't know who I was. When I was going through all of that with child safety, I lost who I thought I was too. And that was a mum. And that was a partner. And that was a nurturer and a caregiver. It was a friend. It was a little girl. So, I got this tattoo June 2024, the day that I got the phone call from my lawyer saying that we'd finally done it. She was finally going to come home. And yes, she doesn't live with me in my house at the moment. And that's only because I need a bigger house to be able to accommodate her lifestyle. That's probably a bit childish and a bit selfish, and you know, some people should go, oh, you should have her around no matter what. And I'm like, no. I know in my heart that I want to be stable situationshiply, right? I'm stable in my relationship, I'm stable with my family, I'm stable in my income. But at the moment with this economy, with this high income lifestyle that this economy is living, it is so hard to have her with me at the moment. And not only that, but she has also got a really good life where she is with my mum. She's started primary school. She's in grade 1 now and she is loving it. Absolutely loving it. And I wasn't able to see her much last year because I had my partner, Ronan, he went into hospital over like a few consecutive times, and also like he's had some things happen with his family. I've had some things happen with my family, my dad going in hospital and things like that. So I had to care down here, and she lives about 4 hours away from me. So, and you know what? I'm glad that she lives 4 hours away from me, because why would I want her around all these people down here? You know? Yes, they're not really around, but like those attitudes linger. You know what I mean? And the people where she lives up there, they've got good attitudes. You know? And she's got a really beautiful life up there. She's got her own room. She's got photos of me everywhere. She's got the toys that I've given her from when she was a kid. She even still has the little star blanket from when she was born. And that tells me that my daughter loves me no matter how far away I am. Yeah, our story's shit, considering child safety and domestic violence and whatnot. However, I've rewritten the next chapter, and I've rewritten her chapter. There was a lot of nights of crying, and a lot of nights of wondering where I went wrong, a lot of nights if I was doing things right. In parenting, there's no right or wrong answer. You don't get handed a manual, no matter what age, no matter if it's your kid or not, no matter if you're looking after this one for a night or forever. You just got to work it out day by day and accommodate with the things that come along with it, especially when it integrates your own story with theirs. So, yeah, the journey is hard, and it still is hard. I still get upset talking about it, you know. I still have a lot of unpacking to do when it comes to the relationship with her father, Sam, and, you know, with what child safety did to me and how they made me feel and what they actually did, and just, you know, things to do with my mum and my dad and whatnot. You know, I have a lot of unpacking to do, but I don't let it disrupt me in the way that I am towards people. And I also hope that listening to me today and getting to know me a little bit more on this side really gets to see you to my heart instead of to my skin. Because when you look at the skin, it's intimidating. But when you look at the heart, it's warm. You know? So, yeah, this is the part 2 that everyone probably wasn't expecting. I definitely wasn't expecting to cry this much on camera, and her going to post it later. But I feel lighter, and if you guys have any questions or comments, please jot them down below. If there's any hate comments, keep going at it, because it doesn't bother me. To you know who, it's like Voldemort at this point. If you make fun of me from this video, it really just goes to show your character. That diss track you're writing is pretty funny of me, not gonna lie. I've heard it and it's hilarious. I really do hope you post it. And yeah, live, love and laugh, man, because I do it every single day, no matter what gets thrown at me, no matter what phone call I have, no matter what social media post is done. It just doesn't hit like it used to, man. It doesn't hit anymore. And to show that and to let the world see that I've grown as a person is great. Finding myself after the relationship and being with Ronan and whatnot, I definitely was able to really understand that music has been there for me like no other person has. And that was why I started releasing music in the first place, was for my own therapy. If you go and listen back to all of my old music from 2024 to 2023, you'll definitely hear the one difference in mixing and mastering. I'm so sorry guys if you do go and listen. You'll also definitely hear the storytelling, the difference, because I definitely dive into topics that I wouldn't have necessarily spoken about on camera, but I'm going to start now. That was the driving force for me, was music was my therapy and I wanted to share that amongst the world. And then I created YLS, and YLS started doing shows and they started really, really popping off. People really, really liked my music at the time. So I started pushing more, and then I got into a DJ competition, which was Your Shot 2024, and I made a 9-track EP and I went and performed that while I was DJing. Wasn't very good back then, but yeah, you know, you live and you learn. You live and you learn. And then I stopped releasing music for a bit because I was making music from my phone at that time. I didn't want limitations to stop me, and I wasn't able to afford, you know, the big setups that I've got now. And then I had an epiphany while I was doing the dishes one morning, that I needed to start university. So I started university. I started a bachelor's of music production. I was going really, really well. I was doing really, really well with that, and I was getting heaps and heaps of shows. I started also taking DJing on as well. And then come try 2 of university, and I'm sitting in there and I'm learning music business, and my teacher starts diving in on record labels and the major record labels, and just how, alright, get your butt out of there, come on, and just how they affect artists and independent artists, and also the backlash and the bad things that they do behind the books and whatnot. And that angered me enough to go, fuck that, what can I do about this? I walked out of that class and I called up my job network at the time and I said, hey, can I start a business? And they said, what sort of business? And I said, a production and record label business. And they said, oh, okay, yeah, let me get back to you. 2 weeks later, they told me that I was in the program to start, it's called the C program, to start your own business. So I did that for 9 months, and I ended up dropping out of uni because I saw that it was the fact that I wasn't trying to become a composer, you know what I mean? And the modules that production was trying to teach me were like composer modules, like music composer modules. And it just didn't correlate or make sense to me, considering I was now opening up this business, this production and record label business, and I had just obtained the funds to get Ableton. So I bought Ableton, the full version. I got Ableton Suite 12, and I started learning that every single day. And it just didn't correlate with me. It wasn't working because I wasn't teaching myself an instrument. And yes, I have, you know, done heaps of instruments beforehand, from clarinet being my first instrument right up to like violin and trumpet, you know what I mean? But ADHD didn't allow me to like stick with an instrument long enough to go, yeah, this is what I want to do, until I found bass guitar of recently, which was only a few months ago. I asked them if I could transfer my credits from production into audio engineering. And they said, yep, we can do that. So I'm now doing audio engineering instead of music production, which correlates way better with the business, and will be done by the end of the year. Losing myself and realizing that music was here for me, and then finding out that you know, releasing music and all that sort of shit, and then finding out all that shit about the record labels and going, what can I do about this? And going, all right, I'm going to be the first record label to ever give 100% back to artists. So that means I don't make anything realistically. We're a non-for-profit label. All the artists get to keep all of their money. They get to keep all of their rights on their music. They don't have to like worry about timelines. They don't have to worry about getting paid or anything like that, because it's all getting paid straight into their bank accounts. So yeah, that's where I've now built myself, and I've really come a long way in 3 years. If any of you guys have seen me over the past 3 years, and even not even just past 3 years, even beforehand, if you knew me from like, you know, 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22, 2022, right? You would have seen the progress to now. Even if you've known me when I was in school, from Kibra High to Southport High or Southport Primary, even when I was going to all those different primary schools growing up, you know, I'm now here doing something that I love, and I'm also helping other people. And that's why I was so vocal about part 1. I don't like it when people twist shit. I've always been one for truth. So yeah, take this part 2 with what you will, and do what you want with it, because yeah, I'm not gonna stop. Clearly the topic of part 1 is not gonna stop, considering I still get sent messages of them posting things up about me on their story, and now this diss track that she's apparently doing, which is absolutely terrible. It just makes her look so much like a fool of her own self. Yeah, I'm still gonna be here doing my thing, doing the Rhilea, you know. My name hasn't got a distinctive meaning for a reason. If you go and look up the meaning of my name, if you go and look up, like, type into Google Rhilea, the meaning, it will never give you an actual meaning. Go put it in ChatGPT or whatever, because yeah, there is no one that has had the name Rhilea, you know. Yes, it sounds like the generic Rhiley, but it's Rhilea. Okay, so there's no one that has had my name, and I'm here to make it something, and I'm making it something every single day. Every single video I post, every single song I write, I produce for myself or other people. Every time I meet someone new, take it with what you will, honestly. And with that, I give a shout out to everybody I give a shout out to you know who for trying to spread lies about me and actually making me realize, yeah, maybe I should just talk about my story, because a lot of people will actually relate. And also go listen to Child Safety Cunts. If you guys want to listen to a song that really sums up this video in one, Child Safety Cunts, Spotify. It'll be the first one to pop up. Don't mind the shitty mixing mastering. I just literally recorded it when I had a producer at JMC before I even went to JMC. I literally recorded with him and just uploaded it because I didn't realise that you needed to mix and master and things like that. But, you know, you live and you learn. Now I'm here. You know what I mean? So, yeah, with that, I'm going to have my Billy. And I love you all. Stay safe. And make sure that you keep spreading positivity around to everyone. And you keep being positive to yourself.